Okay, here we are with Shokker Paint Booth. Been working on it a lot the last couple of weeks. We've had the alpha out, got a lot of good feedback. I know it was clunky when it first came out. There's definitely some stuff that I was having to work on. Um, Feel like I've got a lot further down the road with what we have going on here. So I wanted to show kind of just some things that I think is going to help some people out. This program is designed basically to help people spec map cars easier. So you'll be able to take existing paint schemes and put a certain finish over it, and then import it to iRacing real easy if that's all you need to do. If all you want to do is change your paint scheme, change it from matte to chrome, or change it to satin, or put some kind of cool finishes on it, you're going to be able to do that. But you're also going to be able to do some really high level stuff with this. As I've developed it, I've found a few tricks, and I want to show you some of the stuff that I've learned and some of the ways I think people are going to play with this program. So let me get into it right now. What we're going to do first is we are going to get into the paint booth itself. So when you first load into Shokker Paint Booth, it's going to give you a screen like this, and it's going to tell you to load a paint image. The very first thing you're going to want to do is put your iRacing ID right here in this box. Very important, and do not get it wrong, because this is how it's going to put it into iRacing if you're wanting to look at it live. Now, if you're just wanting to throw this into a different folder and import it later or do something with it, then it wouldn't matter as much. But if you're wanting to do live renders, get your number in here correctly. Then over here on the iRacing car folder, pick whatever car that you're working on. So like if you were in your paint folder right here, I'm actually going to be working on a late model. So I am in a dirt late model 438. You click on the 438. You do not click on your car number in here though. Just click select. So you'll see the path. You get the path to your iRacing. So mine is Documents iRacing Paint, dirt late model 438. Now, first thing I'll do is load an image. And I am not going to start with the car because I'm going to show you something that I think that a lot of people are going to get excited about. And I think this may be one of the breakout things of this program for people that's going to use it. I think this is going to be really popular. You're going to want to load a paint image. So I'm not going to load a car paint. I just actually made a base paint that's just a blank canvas. It's just a blue canvas. So in this blue canvas, first thing I'm going to do is click split over here so I can see a live preview. It not only has the live preview of the spec of the base here, it does have a small spec map preview, and it's broken out by channels so you can actually see what's going on in the background. You've got your metal, your roughness, and your clear coat. So you've got the RGB channels here, and they will fill in automatically. So the first thing I want to do, just to show you, you have the 10 zones here to work in. So if you were painting a car, you actually can add more zones as you need them, but it gives you a base of 10. So as you're painting cars, I'm going to start in zone 1 because it's like Photoshop but backwards. This is your base. Everything else is below it. So I'm going to start with zone 1. And in zone 1, it's just set to this blue color because that's just the background that I picked. So you've got all these base paints, all these base colors. And one thing that I'll tell you right now that I got to keep working on is refining, probably weeding down quite a bit more some of these bases because some of them are not still working correctly, but I have addressed a lot of them and fixed them. And we've got a lot of bases and we've got a lot of specials. So just for demonstration's sake to start out with, let's not do anything crazy. I'm just going to put a matte finish on this blue paint. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm not going to change nothing. I'm just going to click render. Down here in the corner, it tells you it's rendering, and it renders really fast. It renders quickly the less stuff you've got on it. So when it's something like this, it's going to render in a few seconds. So you tab over to iRacing, you do your Control R, and you can see that it changed this car to a matte finish. Just the plain blue car. Now, if I wanted to tab back over, I can change the finish to anything that you want to. You've got all these bases to play with. Some of the categories here have got different kinds of stuff in it. So some of them actually even have patterns on them, or some of them will have colors. So if you go into here and you want to change it to stellar dust and click render, I'm using base color of source paint, so it's actually going to change it because the stellar dust is black. It changes the source to black. It changed the spec a little bit. So we go back over here, and now you've got a stellar dust paint scheme. We will go back. I can go to exotic metal, brush titanium. Going to keep it blue. Click render. Actually, that kept it gray because I clicked use source paint. So you can actually just use a solid color. If you want it to be red, change it to red, and then you just click render. So then you will have a brushed titanium red paint. I'll come back over here. And in this brushed titanium, it's got this one has a pattern on it. If you didn't want the spec to come through as hard with that kind of pattern, you just turn your spec strength down. On your spec map, you could turn the color strength down. You can do all kinds of different stuff. Actually, for a brushed titanium, I'm probably going to take that spec finish off. We will, let's see. Let me do diamond coat because it's got a little bit of fleck in it, the spec, but it's not as pronounced as like the pattern was on the last one. So you come back over here, you do your Control R, you've got your diamond flake, diamond coat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a base. We're going to just build one out and see what happens. You've got all these different finishes you can use. So I'm going to try one of my new paradigm finishes that I have played with. Let's try Phantom because this gives it kind of ghost fog presence. Let's go back to the blue, just some kind of a blue color. And I'm going to click render. So this is going to give it kind of you'll see, it's kind of it does have this foggy, like little accent with it. Now, it may not show up as good on your screen here. Depends on the quality you're streaming at. So that's just a base paint, though. If we want to do something a little crazier, I've got the base paint finish, barely translucent mist, Phantom. You can change your base color. It doesn't have to be a solid color. I've got all kinds of special paints in here. So you can use anything and just play around with it. You can see what it does, what everything's going to react a little different. I'm going to use a color clash that's got the candy pink center with the poison black edges, with the fading into the green. So if I click render on that, it's got the Phantom base with this pink and black. Click render. See, it changes it there. Come back over to iRacing. And now you have this pink and black finish. And you're probably saying, yeah, well, I can spec anything I want to in the like Photoshop. And you can. I mean, you could definitely make gradients and transitions and all that in Photoshop real easy. So this ain't what this is about, but I'm trying to explain the process of building a base. Now, instead of having to have 600 different colors, one other thing I've built into this is I do have where we can shift the hue. So it doesn't have to be that exact hue. We can change it. We could change it. As you see, I'm going down through the hues. It's getting blue. Come all the way to the corner. I've got green. Well, we just ended St. Patrick's Day, so let's keep it green. I'm going to throw put the saturation up maybe to 50. And let me turn the brightness down maybe a little to try to kill some of that transition. Okay. Okay, so let's try that. Let's try to render this green. It's going to change the edges to purple. That's okay. We're just playing around with bases. So now you have the green going into the blackish purple. And you're probably still saying, well, that's all well and good. You can change whatever you want to. Now I could come back in here and I could change this base to something else to make this green either matte or flat or whatever you want to. But we're going to try to start stacking. And remember, we're only in one zone here. We're just in zone number 1. This is just to make a base. So what I'm going to do is you can change the spec blend mode, multiply, screen, overlay, hard light, soft light. So it's got some of the same options that Photoshop would have. Just going to leave it on multiply for now. Then we can start putting patterns on this. And not just patterns, but then we can do base overlays. So let's try to put a pattern on here. So there's all different things you can pick and choose from. All these different pattern groups. So let me put just a fractal on here. It's got a lot of fractal branches. It's going to stick out. It's going to be kind of cool. If I just click fractal and I do nothing else, I don't change space, opacity, rotation, strength, nothing, just put it on there flat like it is. It's going to give you something a little bit different to play with here. So we reload, and then all of a sudden now we're playing around with it a little bit. Now you're getting some different color reactions coming through this base. You've got the lighting changing. You've got the flake coming through the back end. You've got the green, the purple. So now you get to see some of what it's trying to do with the base. And kind of like that, like where it's going. Now, but this is just the fractal zone. On the zone, it's just the pattern. We could come down here, and there's these things called base overlay layers. This is on zone 1's base. So the base for zone 1 right now is a phantom base with this gradient color that we've changed to green that has a fractal pattern on it. What I can do is click on this base overlay layer. So the base to go over top of this. If I want to make that fractal whatever I want to make it, let's click matte. Now what it does first is it defaults down here because you've got blend modes. It defaults to solid white and it defaults to just fractal dust. But we don't want to do that. You've got all these different blend modes you can use. The blend mode that I recommend, at least to do what I'm doing here, is pattern pop. If you go to pattern pop, it tries to go only inside the pattern. Well, you see what it did over here. That's not what we want. But if you click harden, it's supposed to only be inside of the pattern. Then all of a sudden you get some of that color back. And you can also invert the pattern, and then you get the green on the inside and the other shape on the outside. I'm going to invert it back to what it was. And I don't want this to be white though. Not on this base. So let me just leave it as a solid color for now and not make it too complicated. Going to keep it green, some sort, because we've got some green in the base. Let's do like that green. So now you can see that it fills in the green. You've got the purple, you've got this, and it's not white anymore. So I'm going to render and just see what this looks like. Because it's also dealing with the spec map. It's also blending in with the spec map. It's blending in with the green, blending in with the base underneath it. So we come back. And now you've got more of the green over top of it, but this green is matte. What's underneath is not. Now this, I can already tell, don't like some of the way this green looks. The matte probably doesn't work exactly like I want it to, but I can see some of the reflective green and some of the reflective purple coming through this. So we're not off to a bad start. You have to play with this program a little bit to see what you want to do. So what I'm going to do instead of this green, I'm going to make the green a little bit brighter. It's going to kill it. So I can already see in the preview, I don't think that's going to work as well, but I can take the strength down too. When you take the strength down, it's actually taking the strength of the matte overlay down. And it has its own spec strength too. And the pattern reaction for the fractal has its own opacity. So if you take that down to like 20, then you get most of the original back. You can step it up, and as you step it up, you're getting more of the overlay base to try to come through. So there, that's probably good. I'm going to kick the strength down just a little bit more. Just get some of the green in there. Okay, I'm going to try to render that. So we render that, takes about 15 seconds. Now you've got some of that green coming through, popping through, and it's reacting with the green underneath. But this green on top is just matte, so it's not going to reflect or shine or do anything crazy. But if you wanted it to do something a little crazier, I can kick the opacity back up, do all this, and it is dominating the pattern, but you don't have to use a solid color here either. We can use a special color or a special finish. So you've got all these specials to choose from. We can, let's see, what do we want to try to put on here? Maybe something inverted candy finish. Let's see what it does. Okay, we could try that. I'm sure it's going to look pretty crazy, but let's see what it does. Probably going to wash everything out a little too much, but it's going to give you an idea of what it does. And it's also, as I did this inverted candy, it is matte. So we could change that too. Come back over here. Now you've got inverted candy. You see the old base coming through under the bottom. See the colors changing a little bit. Still not exactly what I would want, but it does have kind of a cool feature. So I'm going to change this from matte to, we'll do brushed titanium. And we will leave this on pattern pop. We will change the special, because it defaulted back to brushed titanium because I changed it there, to, you could do anything. Let's just do prism iridescent. Let's render that. And like I said, it takes about 15 seconds to render. Hear it pop. There we go. Okay. Now we've got the iridescent color trying to come through, and it's giving some little bit of color shift. A little bit of color shift with it. You see when the light hits it different ways, it's doing different things with the spec. And this is just with one pattern. So we could try something else. I know a pattern that likely will work pretty good with this. So let me change the pattern to biomechanical. This pattern has some really good features. It pops out. It's really cool. It's clean. So I'm going to try this one. See what biomechanical gives us. So we've got a brushed titanium biomechanical finish now with a prism iridescent overlay over the biomechanical. So coming back to the car. Now we have this. Now with this biomechanical, a lot of times you're going to get pattern pops coming through the finished, and it's going to look pretty crazy. And a lot of these finishes can do this. So you see it's almost glowing where it's coming through. So it shifts colors, glows, all that good stuff. You've got the color shift still on the paint too, a little bit, just where it's catching the light different ways. So you've got that, and you have the and you've got the color on top of the biomechanical. Now you can change the biomechanical color. So we know that we've got purple and green, and then right now we have a brushed titanium base with that prism iridescent. Let me change the base to, let's try to go to something different. Let's go to a frozen base. I'm going to go to a solid color. And I'm going to put like an icy blue over top of that. And I'm going to click render. Come back to it and see what the ice blue does on top of it. It'll probably stand out pretty good against the green and the purple, I would imagine. Yeah, I think it's going to. Need back up the lap some. So there you go. You've got the icy blue finish coming through over top of the green, over top of the purple. It's not really standing out a whole lot though. It's probably not quite dark enough. So we could darken the blue some. And instead of having it frozen, let's try to put a glass finish on it. So now we have a little darker blue. coming through. We have a different finish on it. And we are going to change it to pink. And we've got it on pattern pop. There's other different things you could do. So if you do pattern react, if you do pattern peaks, it changes the base a little bit depending on what you click. It'll change the spec and the base a little bit. Either way, I'm going to go to, let's see, maybe just candy. That looks like that's going to come through pretty good. See if the pop comes through better. All right, we'll try that. And remember, we're only playing with this one color right now. We can do a lot of different stuff. So I'm going to change it off of this green color in a second. But here you've got some more color stuff going on. They both change, like the colors change through the way the light's reflecting off of it. So now with this candy, this pink's almost more of a red with the way it's laying on the green, but it's just the way it's reflecting and the finish. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go all the way back up here. We've had this phantom base for a while. We could change that. I mean, we could go metallic. We could do a candy base for the actual paint. And instead of using that special color of the gradient, we could do a different kind of color. Let's do Arctic, chameleon. We do matte, chameleon. Oh, okay, I know what's going on. So it's not changing up here, and I was a little bit confused, but I think it's because I've got too much going through somewhere. So let me just take that off, take off the candy. Oh, it's because I had the hue still shifted. Okay. I'll need to reset that. You can reset those back to baselines. That's why everything was looking off. Okay, so now it is the Arctic finish. I am going to put we just put the biomechanical base back on there for now. We'll put the base overlay as a tempered glass and pink. So we've kept the pattern pop blend mode for this pink tempered glass over the base that is the special color of chameleon Arctic. Okay, so we're going to try that. I'm going to totally change the way this car looks, obviously, because it's a totally different color and a different base and different finishes. So now you can see the pink better. You've got the chameleon base. It's got the white and the blue, and it's the way it reflects. It's kind of color changing on that too. Now with this lighter base though, and I've got this solid pink, I don't want to do the solid color. I actually want to put a base over top of it that is that is something else. Now I did have this base as clear matte. I think we want to do something. Let's do tinted clear. And let's try to change the base color. We've still got tempered glass. We still have the biomechanical. We could change that to, let's just change it to iridescent. Okay. So change that to iridescent. You're going to have the iridescent over top. It's going to be similar to this Arctic color underneath anyway, but it's going over the base colors and it's coming a different way over this pattern. It's going to be too light. Well, it does change to like a pinkish color as you come through. It's just not bright enough. And part of that could be the overlay top. We could change that to a chrome, candy chrome. It's not going to help because this prism iridescent is too dull. Do like a chameleon over top of that. We could do, okay, this'll at least give it some character over top of this base. I can tell that the green's going to pop through a little bit. And the green's trying to come through. I think our bottom base is, with this tinted clear, it's not letting it pop off enough. So I'm going to change it to just a semi-gloss. And going to change the biomechanical again. I'm going to throw a solid pink back over it, the chrome pink. So a lot of this base building is going to be playing with it. You're going to just play with it until you find a combination you really like as a base. Then you can save the base and work on, in Photoshop, adding like a scheme over top of it. And there's tons of bases to choose from. I mean, I've just played with a couple. So you've got biomechanical. I've got Art Deco here. It's just wild patterns, and you can change the scale of the base. So, like if you scale this down to 0.5, it's going to make the pattern smaller. I have to scale it down in both places, though. I scaled it down here on the actual pattern. And then on the pattern overlay, if you click align with selected pattern, it will scale it down there too. It looks a little funny here because there's a rendering problem with my preview that I'm still working on. But in the sim, it will look fine. Or it won't. Maybe I lied. So there's something going on here. There's a bug here with this. I'm not sure exactly what's happening. We'll address that. So let's go back just to 1-to-1. It's fine at 1-to-1. So there's definitely something that I've got to work on. So let me go back to 1-to-1 on the, on this also. Going to change it to, let's change this to something else. Let's go with a topographic pattern. You could go with, we've got nano weaves, carbon. So like this nano weave will probably look pretty good. The nano weave with the pink base over top of it. Yeah. So there you've got a nano weave with a pink base over top of it. And if you think there's too much pink coming through, or there's too much this, or there's too much that, you can adjust all these sliders. Opacity, um, strength, spec strength, anything that you want to adjust down. But on this, since that pink is kind of overpowering with as many little nano weave patterns as we have, we can do another from special, change it. Let's put one of these prisms over it and click render. And it's got the prism all over the paint, so it's going to look a little bit different now. You'll see the prism come through the pink instead of not having pink. So as light hits it a different way, it's going to look a little bit different colored. And I'm going to change the underneath base again. You could do some crazy stuff with this. You could try an angle shock, Aurora, and then use any of these different special paint schemes, paint colors, paint finishes. Some of them are meant to be used like this. Some of them are meant to be used like just with a number pattern or like a livery pattern and stripes or angles or whatever. You're not having to use them with the whole base. They look better sometimes when you're just using them with smaller things. But we can put all kinds of different finishes on it. So just throwing some stuff out there. This is Shock Aurora with crystal clear, and it's got the nano weave. So obviously that is something you wouldn't want to just run, or I wouldn't anyway. But there's, you could change this up. I mean, on the Shock Aurora, you could change the color strength down to where more of the Aurora is coming through and less of the special is coming through, or just change the special to something a little easier on the eyes. So there's a lot of different stuff you can do with this. One thing I'll show you real quick, because I know a lot of people will want to paint cars with this, and that's one of the primary things you can do. So let me just go to a car paint. We'll do one real quick with that. So I'm going to restore all, and it's just resetting the base, taking everything away. I'm going to come up here and just open a car file. I've got a Brandon Shepherd scheme loaded. All right, so with the Brandon Shepherd scheme, what you would want to do is if you just wanted to render this car as is, first of all, you go into your base one, click remaining, because it's catching anything not caught by any of the zones above. And I would turn off, you could turn off all these other zones if you don't need them. It don't hurt to have them on, but you don't need them, so you can just turn them off. At least to do the first render. So we do all the remaining color. Click render. Oh, I have to set a base. So this is probably normally like a semi-gloss like look. So I'm just going to click render on a semi-gloss Brandon Shepherd. So now we have Brandon Shepherd semi-gloss. No, nothing strange. normal paint. So yeah, that looks fine. So if you wanted to come in and somebody just wanted to change the finish of their paint scheme, this program's really good for that. What you could do, come in, change this, click. You want to make it a matte finish, just click matte, then click render, and it'll dull the paint scheme a little bit. You'll get a matte paint scheme. So you don't have to do anything crazy with it. If you wanted to change it to something a little more exotic, try something like a graphene scheme over top of it. But if you click it just over the source, let's see. Let me try this. I'm not sure if it's going to, I may have to pick the color. It may have to, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So when you're trying to do certain finishes, if it's got a color on it, it's going to mess it up. But if it's just a finish, base finish, like clear, you click it, then it's going to leave the car alone. Eggshell is going to leave the car alone. But if you came up here and you click quantum black, it's not going to leave the car alone. You got to, but if you wanted to do a quantum black, you can do that in a certain way. So you just go back to a regular finish. So I'm in zone 1, and when I clicked remaining, it's every color in the zone. So it's catching everything on this car file right now. If I only wanted to catch the blue, it's already on pick up here. You've got a selection, pick, click blue, down here at the bottom, click add. It shows you that blue right here. And it does have a tolerance slider. So if you wanted to catch more blue hues, you would have this tolerance slider higher. If you wanted to catch less blue, you'd have it lower. You set that before you click the color. So I can delete this color. And if I just wanted this blue to mostly just catch this one color of blue, I'm going to turn that tolerance way down. I'm going to click this, click add. Then I have this blue color, this exact text color with a tolerance of 8. So it's only going to catch that blue. And if I wanted to only make this blue and give it a gray fiberglass finish, we can do that. So I click render, and then in just a few seconds, I've changed Brandon Shepherd's car to this finish here. Now, probably wouldn't want that. And you can change the base. You've got the fiberglass here, so it actually changed it to that color. But I can just use a solid color. I could color it back to pretty much whatever color his car is here, somewhere in there. You can grab the exact text code. So I'll click render. It's going to keep this finish on the car, but then it's going to change it back to blue. So now you've got that finish with that blue. If you wanted to change it to something else, obviously you can change it to pretty much anything you want, like an ambulance white. But I'm keeping the solid color blue. I'll make it a little more blue. There we go. So render. And now you've got this shinier, glossier blue coming through. All right, so that's pretty standard. I mean, anybody can do pretty much this in Photoshop, but you could do this pretty quick with the paint program, and you've got all kinds of bases to choose from, all kinds of finishes to choose from. So let's do something a little more exotic with that. Let's use it from Special on the blue. And let's try a dark matter. Shift the hue a little bit. Trying to find a hue that I think would look decent with this. Give it some more saturation. Turn down the brightness a little bit. Okay. So let's try something like that and just see how it comes out. Probably take about 10, 12 seconds to render. And then we've got this. So you can change pretty quickly on how this comes out. I mean, if you wanted solid colors, it's easy just to change it to a solid color. You don't have to use the special. If you wanted this blue car to have a yellow base, change it to the yellow base. Reset the settings there. Click render. And you'll have a yellow base with the ambulance, the yellow color with the ambulance white base. But that's not all, that's not the main thing this is built for. This is built for doing kind of crazy stuff with it. So that's when you come back in and use the patterns. So right now there is no pattern on this layer. And it's only on this layer, so it's only on this blue that is now yellow. So let's put something on here. Let's put a chain link pattern, maybe. Let's come back to carbon and weave. Let's put that nano weave back on there, but actually let's put the scale back to 1. So first 1 to 1. And put the base overlay layer on it as a clear matte solid blue. And when we do that, it automatically defaults to this fractal dust. I would put it on pattern pop. And do we have the scale at 1%? Okay, so the scale and the scale on both of them is 1 to 1. Yep, I think so. Scale 1. Yep. Okay. So we've got the pattern coming over top of the. It's going to actually make it more blue again because of the way that looks, with being so much pattern. But you've got a little bit of the yellow coming through too. So that's not the base that I would want to use for that. I could come back to the biomechanical because I know that it works pretty well. And we could take the solid color, we could leave it the blue over the yellow base. And then you've got the blue pattern over the yellow base. But it's clear matte right now. So if you wanted to do something a little more exotic, you can do these specials to change the color. And we can do the Chameleon Arctic. And instead of it being matte, we can do wet look. So it'll take it back to closer to the blue color that it was before, with some of the yellow. With that Chameleon Arctic, it's not quite the right color of blue coming through. And you can't see it good enough because of the base. So you could play with that. You could change it around. There are definitely bases that work really well. We could give this thing a solid black base. And on a matte finish. And then the biomechanical. And you could turn the opacity down too, just to let it pop through a little bit and not have it come all the way up. So we could go solid color on that, go solid blue. But you could take the strength down and then it makes it, changes the colors out a little bit. Take the spec strength down some. Take the overall strength of the pattern down. So then when you take that down, then it becomes basically the base color, which is actually like a gold. So you want to leave that strength up. But if you take the opacity down, yeah, it does it too. It's not reacting to the blue. So this is some of the stuff I'm still working on a little bit, trying to get the blends right. But if you use the blue over top of the black, you are still going to get a blue on black. So that's for this one base here. So if you like this blue on black look with this, and you're like, I want to do something with the number, open up layer 2, come up here, click on the red in the number. It is set on 40 right now, so I'd probably turn it down a little bit. Click add. So it's 20 tolerance with that red color. And if I wanted this red color to be a different base, then we could just come over here, click on any of these. Use a solid, you have to change the color back for that. So I'd put it back to red. And it looks like it's the I can already see the tolerance is picking up some really weird stuff. Okay, so this is actually good that I could show you this here. So one of the things I'm working on, we can come up here and do a spatial include on this zone. So if I click spatial include and I'm only trying to get the number, I know I'm clicking out of the number a little bit, so it's going to get that, but I'm just trying to show it to you real quick. Drag down. Try to get this one a little closer. So if I'm only trying to get this red, come over here to the number. Now there's no other colors around this red, so it don't matter. There's no other red to hit. Okay. So now it's only spatially included the red in those zones. Then if I hit render, it should only affect the red in the spatial drawing. And it did. So it only affected the red in the drawing and not all the red on the car. If you wanted to add a pattern over the numbers, anything you wanted, we could come in and do pattern overlay over the number, whatever, herringbone maybe. Kick the scale down a little bit. If you wanted to put a color on it, you could do that too, or like a finish. So soft gloss, black, just to see what it does. See if it'll pick it up. Pattern pop, harden. And I'm going to turn the opacity down. Okay, I'm going to try to render that and see what happens. There we go. Okay, there's some pattern. You can see the pattern come through. You can see the color come through a little bit. On the other side of the car. Oh. There we go. So some people will probably want to make really cool stuff with numbers on this thing. Some people are going to want to do bases. Some people are going to want to try to do paint schemes. One thing, I'm going to clear this back off and show you one more thing, because this is one of the features I hope everybody really gets into and starts using when they make these, especially making bases, because I think there's going to be a lot of people that can make some really cool bases, probably a lot better than what I'm showing you. Let me go to just restore everything back to the way it was. I'm going to put the car file back just to the blue base. And I'm going to come back in here to layer one. I'm going to go ahead and just turn these others back off. I don't need them. I'm only playing in layer one. Base. I'll do this quick. Since you've already seen this once, we're going to just try to do, I don't know, let's do quantum. Remaining. Got to click remaining so the whole, it's covering the whole source area. And I'm going to click render. I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm just going to click quantum render. See what I get. So you get this pattern with the blue because it's using the base color. So you get some color change, you get some flaking. So there's a lot of stuff going on with this quantum by itself, which is good. Use a solid color. I could use red. Oh, that's right, because this base is quantum. Depending on what kind of base you click, sometimes the solid colors don't work. Sometimes the specials don't work because I've got a quantum base already. So if I try to put some of these on here, they're just not going to work. Let me click sparkle confetti. So nothing happens. But that's okay. I like the quantum base by itself is fine. We can do hue shifts with it. Try to get the preview to change. It looks like it's hung. Let me just change the base because I think I hung it up. Frozen matte. We still got a frozen matte base. Let's put an Aurora paradigm on there. You brine it up a little, mess with the saturation, mess with the hue. Yeah, let's just do that. And we will put a snake skin over top of it. Now, I know the snake skin looks pretty good. Most of the time, it can give you some really cool color shift stuff. So I'm showing you the snake skin. So snake skin by itself, just with the regular base over top of this colored Aurora paint scheme, it's going to give you this. Now, obviously, I mean, if I was making a paint scheme, it's not lined up correct, and that's not the way I would do it. But if you could play with it, what I would do here, I'm just going to leave the Aurora alone for now, and I'm going to put a base overlay layer on top of the snakeskin, and I'm going to try to put on, I don't know, maybe a carbon weave. And we're going to do like maybe an icy blue. And we will go back to the pattern pop. We will harden. And we'll leave everything else alone. I'm going to render that. And this is definitely going to change this paint scheme a whole lot. Okay, you still have the Aurora. This is one where you can kind of see what this thing's capable of. We can dull this, we could change the colors, you can do whatever you want to. But right here, what this is doing, it's catching the Aurora, but it's also catching the overlay that we put on it. So it really gives it a kind of a unique look. I mean, it almost looks like it's changing colors, which is the effect that you're going for here. That shift from the reflective and the purple, and then you got the white almost to the black, and then back to the purple and the blue. So this is kind of a demonstration on what it can do from overhead. You could see it, the way the light hits it, the colors bounce off of it different. All right. So that's on the Aurora though. I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to change, and that's on frozen matte also. So that's Aurora frozen. We could change the reflectivity to give it a pop. So Trico Pearl. Let's change the base color from Aurora to Chameleon Phoenix underneath. I'm going to reset these so it'll actually be the right color. Yep, okay. So you're going to get a Chameleon Phoenix finish under this now. There we go. So you've got some of the yellow coming through, some of the orange. It's changing depending on the angle, the way the light hits it. So I'm not saying we're reinventing the wheel here, but I think we're close to being able to do some really insane things with this. Like really close, because the amount of spec work that it would take to try to get to some of this stuff is pretty tough. Because if you look at these spec maps, it blends everything together. and it blends everything together here. So there's different ways that we can go about doing it. Down here, I've got the, what did I have? We had carbon weave on the snake skin. And we had the solid blue. I mean, we could change it to whatever you wanted it to be. We could go prism, and it's going to change the background. We could change the opacity down some. We could change the strength down some to try to fine tune it. So more of that's coming through and less of the snake skin. But you still have a little snake skin coming through. So it'll load here in just a second. Loaded. Bang. So now you've got more of the base finish coming through and a little bit of the snakeskin pattern that will pop through. And the crazy thing is you can have up to 5 bases. You can have up to 5 patterns, layers in one zone. So if you wanted to add something else to this, spider, if you want to add a spider web over it, we could do that. And we can add a third base, metallic, candy. And on the metallic candy right now, it's automatically sets to react to pattern 1. But we can change that to react to pattern 2, which is the spider web. And it's got all the same features. So we can go pattern pop. We can go harden. We can change the color to whatever we want to. Now, some of the colors is not 1-to-1 because it depends on the base. So this candy base could change the color. It depends on the base you use for that. So everything's reactive, but you can see, obviously, there's a huge spider web pattern over the whole car. This is just for demonstration, obviously. We wouldn't want to do this wouldn't look right, but this is going to prove a point here. I throw another pattern over top of it that has its own base, own color, own finish. So now you've got spider web pattern over top of that. If you wanted to do something a little more realistic, you wouldn't want to put the spider web. Let's try one other thing. Let's just try to put something that would maybe make sense. That could work with the snakeskin pattern that would lay over top of it. Maybe like a carbon. So pattern 2 carbon. We're going to align this to pattern 2. It defaults back to pattern 1 when you change it. So we have the carbon, and I can tell you can tell that's overtaken the other base. So we could turn it down, turn the opacity down to try not to overtake the snakeskin. Because actually the snakeskin pattern, I think we have it down too. We do. So there's a fine line to walk there to try to get it close. I'm still working on the blending of how the strengths work. They're still not exactly lining up right. So that's one thing that I'm definitely still working on. But you can see the carbon pattern. You can see the snake skin underneath it. And you can see the colors underneath that from the fire base or whatever the thing was that we put on it. So with that carbon, well, there's anything we could change with it. And we've got the strength way up. We could turn the strength down some. We could also turn the spec strength down some. Okay. So on the carbon, we could have this as a solid color. Let's try blue. Oh, it's because the opacity's turned down. If I turn the opacity up, you'd see but it's going to kill the strength and the opacity up, but it's going to take away the snake skin. So there's a fine line to walk to try to get it blended correctly. And I'm trying to work on the blend modes a little bit better. I'm going to just throw this on here just to see what it does. And it's very reflective. Still got very carbony. But if this is something you liked, you could, play with it. I'm going to take that pattern back off. So you come back up here where the patterns are at, and then just click none. Then on your third base, you'd want to turn that back off. And kick the pattern of the snakeskin back up. I can turn the scale down a little bit though. And this is the last thing I'm going to try, because I'm going to show you how to save this. So like if this base turns out to be the one that you're like, yeah, this is great, I want to save this, I want to use it as a base for Photoshop. You see this and you're like, yeah, I really like this pink, really like this coming through this color, the reflections and everything. And that's just the base right there. That's what you liked. Come over here. There's a button called PS Export. And what it does is it exports your base paint and all 4 spec channels, PNG files that you can take to Photoshop and put on your base. You also can do this thing called Save Shock. So if I saved this pattern and I really liked it, example, SS, my name, SPB, you can tag it, whatever. But if you hit Save Shock, then it saves it to a folder in your Shokker library. If you want to load a shock after you just saved that one, so like if you come in and you're wanting to load that one back in, if you work on it, or if you want to share shock files, you'll be able to share these with other people. And they can grab a shock file and they would be able to load yours in. So like I have Pac-Man Pastel. When you click load shock, you can load the spec map only, a spec map and a new TGA, a spec with the zones, or you can import everything. And if you click import everything, it would Pac-Man Pastel restored, and it restored all the channels over here that I had for that. It has not restored it here because there was a issue when I saved it. But if I did just go back in and click render from the Pac-Man Pastel, it should give me the base back that I had built. Or something pretty close to it. Yeah, it didn't give it back to me correctly because this was a corrupted one. Let me try to load the other shock that we just did back and try that. So the example, full import. Okay, that did look like that imported that back in correctly. I changed some files today and it messed up the shock file that I had saved. I changed up the structure a little bit because it wasn't saving correctly. But now it has. So if you import that back in, somebody has a base you really like or you want to share them amongst each other, you'll be able to basically share these shock files with each other. And if this thing would take off enough, we'll do a website, we'll have a shock repository, we could have a leaderboard, all that cool stuff. So there is a ton of things you can do with this. And there's so many ways to play with it. There's so many avenues to explore. And this started out with me literally having some friends that, I know that they like to paint. And they said, man, if I could just make my own chrome schemes, or man, if I could just do this one little thing. And I thought, we could build something. We could build something. And it would be easy. So you take a base paint. You just need a clear matte paint scheme on a red car. You click render. I mean, you could have your paint scheme loaded, but you just have a clear paint scheme. You could do whatever. Oh, that rendered blue because I didn't click remaining. You always have to click remaining if you're not working with a specific color. So now it's red. So if you wanted, I just thought, we could do all these bases. There's these plugins for Photoshop where people do this, and it's pretty simple. But a lot of people get confused in the spec channels, and I did. I mean, I've painted for, God, since NASCAR 94, the original NASCAR racing. I took floppy disks to school and would download stuff on my floppy disk, bring it home because I didn't have internet at the house. So I've been painting a while, trying to do things a little more non-traditional. I mess around with spec maps. I can do Chrome. I can do all that stuff, but I think the opportunity to create patterns in here, to create unique stacked layers as bases is something really, really huge. And if you have a guy that just has a car and he says, man, I just want, I've got Scott Bloomquist and I'd really like to just do this one thing with Scott Bloomquist's car. You can grab Scott Bloomquist if you have his paint scheme downloaded. It's like, I want to do one really cool thing with this, or I'd like to make a chrome paint scheme or whatever. You can go up here and click on some of these bases, and there's chrome. Use source paint. It's going to give it a glow just because I've clicked everything and it's not exactly right because it's not made to do it exactly this way. Not with some of these, but it gives you the idea. Those foundation bases are, and I'm going to make some of these other bases where it will give you the actual paint scheme without doing anything weird to it. But if you wanted to do something with Bloomquist like that, yeah, that messed it up because it's not just the color. I would need to do one color. But if you go to one of the foundations and just click clear satin, the foundational schemes don't mess with it at all. It don't mess with the paint scheme. It just gives you a different color. So there you go. If you wanted to. So that's something I am going to work on. I'm going to put in more foundation schemes because some of these, the way they're built now, they change the actual color. They weren't really intended to do that. But they do. It's the way they've been built in the system. So you do something like that, and this is gonna give it that frozen look. Kind of blacks it out a little bit. Comes back into the light. So there's tons of stuff you could do. If you wanted to put a pattern just over the black, you could click the black color, add the black to the zone, and just put a pattern over the black. So if I click black, click add, put a Aztec pattern over the black. It's hanging. There it went. Okay. So we could put the Aztec pattern over the black base overlay of silk color. We'll leave it white. We'll do pattern pop so it's not all this weird stuff. We'll have to take the strength way down, like way down. See, and it's catching all the blank. You'd have to do an exclusion zone, so it's not going to work exactly right. So you get the idea. Like we could exclude the black on the in here and the sponsors and all that. So yeah, I mean, it overlaid everything with the black because it's overlaying the whole car. Because most of this car is black, so it's overlaying most of it. If I cleared that off and I done red on the primary layer. Oh, and you can add more than one color to a zone. So you can have black and red in the same zone. So I've got black, red, whatever, but I'll take the black back out, keep the red. And I wanted the red to be platinum, and I wanted it to have a we could do, I don't know, anything. Just a gloss base. If you wanted to change the color, you could change the color of red. You could change it to his old green. So change anything red to green. Keep the pattern. I mean, you take the pattern. You wouldn't want the pattern on the red. So take that out. And I may have clicked the wrong red because it looks like it's only doing, oh, it was the render. So yeah, you can change the red to green. But obviously like this RHR trucking, that shouldn't be red, so you can exclude that. You can, the same thing like spatial include, you can exclude. So I could hit exclude and exclude the red here and the red here, whatever. One of the things that I want to work on is being able to stamp, and that's what this is supposed to be down here, where you'll be able to stamp decals over top of this to not mess with whatever you're doing in here. It'd be nice if I could make it more like Photoshop, but I mean, I'm only one guy trying to make all of this, and I think that there's a lot of use to be had in what I've got already. So I hope some of this was clear tonight, and if you go through it, you'll get some use out of how to play with this when the new alpha drops, probably in the next 2 days. So that's Shokker Paint Booth, and I've got the Discord. If you're not on the Discord, put a message in here, and put a message in the YouTube chat. I'll send you a link to the Discord. I'll put a link to the Discord on this. I'll update the post and put a link to the Discord in there. So anybody interested in the program, you can get in the Discord and see what's going on as I'm doing stuff almost every day. So I appreciate it. And I will be back on, hopefully, with more examples and more tutorials and all that good stuff here in the next few days. Thanks.